All right, so that was the first of the very first presidential debates for the elections 2020, and it was as charged as everyone expected to be, the two contenders going head one-on-one with each other. And to give us more perspective in terms of how all of this is played out, we are joined by Susan Tehrani, who's joining us live from New York. Now, Susan, let me begin by asking you this. Everyone was, of course, looking forward for these presidential debates. Donald Trump, being the reality star that he's been, it's said that he prefers this kind of a contest where he takes on Joe Biden one-on-one. What is the general consensus there? How widely watched was this presidential debate? And who has succeeded in getting the message across better?
You know, as you know, this is one of the most historic presidential debates here in the United States, and it definitely, undoubtedly, had many viewers across the United States and around the world as well. Now, Donald Trump was Donald Trump as the way that he was, and Joe Biden did what he promised to do, which was to stay calm and collected. However, there are certain issues that I think voters were looking for. And first of all, I need to say I don't think in any way those who were already decided really changed their mind. I think that both candidates really appealed to their own base. But in terms of issues that were critical regarding the coronavirus, the economy, healthcare, law and order, you know, both candidates really went after these issues because they knew that it was the undecided voter that looked at these issues ultimately rather than the so-called bickering between the two sides. They were really looking to see which candidate they would want to go for. Donald Trump was very strong on law and order. He was very adamant to talk about that issue. He got Joe Biden at a certain point when he asked which of the police unions supported you, and Joe Biden didn't have an answer, despite the fact that he was trying to appeal to Donald Trump's base and say that, yes, I do support law and order. But, you know, in context of what's happening across America with the Black Lives Matter movement and with the protests, you know, they tend to be Democrat, and so, you know, that was kind of a point
Absolutely,
of contention.
Susan. I'll discuss the
economy,
issue
again,
of, you know,
Trump
the
was
race
very
relations
strong
and the fault
despite
lines
fact
in the
that
American society. But I want you to talk a bit about, you know, the very last topic of the debate, and perhaps one of the most crucial ones, where Donald Trump yet again has refrained from committing to a peaceful transfer of power. He still insists that mail-in voting is essentially a fraud, despite the fact that in the 2016 elections, almost over 25% of the electorate voted through the mail-in voting system. But still, in the 2020 elections, the president insists that this is a clear case of, you know, fraud that could take place in these elections.
Yeah, I mean, that's an issue that he has been concerned about. There have, you know, just to make clear that there have been issues with mail-in voting before. I think he's taking that issue and making it perhaps bigger than it is. And he's appealing to his base. You know, he wants people the old-fashioned way to go out and vote at polling stations. And he knows that his supporters prefer that kind of voting, considering the fact that there have been polls indicating that they don't take the coronavirus as seriously. They want to be in an environment where they go and cast their ballots. And so he's playing on that front. And then on the other issue is the issue of mailing voting, that usually it is the Democratic Party that uses mailing voting and uses those kind of procedures in the Democratic election, in the presidential elections. Yeah, so that's the issue with that. Both parties appealing to their base, but you know, the peaceful transfer of power, that's extremely important for Americans and the American democratic system.
That indeed is one of the issues that will continue to dominate the debates. But one of the other issues that was also discussed, Susan, was the issue of the disclosure of taxes that Donald Trump has paid, especially in the aftermath of that explosive report that came out that in the years 2016 and 2017, President Trump had paid just about $750 as taxes for the entire year. And Donald Trump did not have an adequate enough answer to that question. How is this viewed within the American polity?
You know, there are two issues regarding the taxes and the report that came out by the New York Times just days before this the debates, and that's the issue of tax policies and the tax codes in the United States and how Donald Trump applied that to his business. Now, some might argue that we still don't know, as the New York Times also mentioned, whether or not the Trump family and Trump himself broke any laws or not by doing that, and the issue might be the tax system that needs to be reformed. On the other hand, when you look at working families, it's hard for them to digest that a billionaire would pay such little taxes, and a lot of them aren't even familiar with the tax cuts that higher income Americans get, as opposed to themselves working 9 to 5. So that again resonates with the topper echelon of the society, if you may, and those working class Americans. And so that will be an issue that many people will be considering. But the New York Times report, that's something that Trump's base does not read the New York Times. Let's just put it that way.
All right. And just before we let you go, Susan, one of the biggest issues that is going to dominate this election and something that will be playing on the minds of every American voter is as to how the coronavirus pandemic has played out and also the manner in which the economy has been hammered. Joe Biden has now said that the American economy is growing in some kind of a K-shaped pattern where the well-off will continue to remain well-off, but those who are poor and vulnerable in the aftermath of the lockdowns and the restrictions will continue to get poorer. So how does the American public view President Trump's record in dealing with the coronavirus pandemic and also the manner in which the economy has been hammered in the United States?
Well, when you look at the polls, it's clear that the handling of the coronavirus pandemic is not a strong point for the president, and that's why he prefers to always stress on the economy, which is his comfort zone. It's hard to tell how Joe Biden would have handled the coronavirus pandemic differently, considering the fact that we have an incumbent that went ahead, and the media is using these numbers as you can see that even one death is one too many, but perhaps Donald Trump put himself in a trap when he said that, it is what it is. So in terms of the coronavirus pandemic, American people, the majority, at least in the polls, say that Donald Trump didn't handle it the way that he should have. I mean, the numbers are skyrocketing and the media is playing on those numbers, and so is the Democratic Party. In terms of the economy, Donald Trump has been very adamant in trying to make Joe Biden appear as a quote-unquote socialist that promotes big government and will take your liberties away and will try to raise your taxes. So in that sense, I think that people will look at Donald Trump and say, at least we know what he is. Trump is Trump. He's a businessman. Before this, he was successful. He built an economy, and before the coronavirus, people were very happy with that economy. It's the coronavirus that drew the economy down. So that's something that American people understand, they know. But in terms of those who have lost their jobs during the coronavirus pandemic, I think they really do want government assistance, and that's something that Joe Biden put forth during these debates.
All right, Susan, we'll have to leave you there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us live from New York and getting us all those insights into the very first presidential debates for the elections for 2020. This, of course, is now going to continue in the subsequent debates as well. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.